Tuesday evening, just after 6 p.m. It's Bless Radio. This is the spiritual discussion program, and I'm Brother Saad in London, and hopefully I've got Brother Rainer. Are you there, Brother Rainer?
Yes, you've got me there.
Yep. Welcome to the show. Um, Dear listeners, as always, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. So, as always, I'm going to tell you how the weather is here in London. It's cold. Not quite freezing. I think it's about 4 degrees, but it feels like freezing. How's it in Germany, Brother Rainer?
Freezing too and cold.
And cold, okay. And Brother Gregory, we're expecting to see him soon. He's on his way. Hopefully, well, not too long, he'll be joining us. So, dear listeners, as always, we have a new topic every week. The topic for tonight is beauty, simplicity, and purity. Beauty, simplicity, and purity. Some people might not think that there's something sort of linked with these three sort of titles or subjects, but we're going to discuss that tonight. And you're welcome to join us as always. The number to contact us here in the studio is UK number is 079 444 313 66. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 000. I'll just say that again: 00 44 79 444 313 66. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to start with what is the Grail message? The Grail message, in the light of truth, by Abrushin, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to finish with one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you again, the topic for tonight is beauty, simplicity, and purity. And please do join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 313 66. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 313 66. Now, as I said, the topic is tonight beauty, simplicity, and purity. And I think this first question, it has to be just straightforward, is what is beauty? Brother Rainer, everybody has their own idea of beauty. Can we define beauty?
Well, I think this your first questions are always almost impossible to answer.
Sorry.
A definition of beauty or anything like this, I think, well, I think it is impossible. Let us think about beauty. Beauty is something which one experiences.
Right.
And one knows it intuitively if it is that it is beautiful or if it's less beautiful or if it's just repulsive. It's a reaction which is very deep on an emotional level. It's an emotional assessment. Something makes an emotional impact on you and you realize, oh, this is beautiful. Now the beauty, if you think about it, where beauty can occur. I had recently a book in my hand. It was just called Beautiful Gardens, and it studied the gardens through all over the globe of humanity, all over the centuries, past millennia. There was the gardens of the Alhambra in there, and all kinds of wonderful paradise gardens. Now it was talking about the beauty of a garden. What is it? And there were lots of philosophers who had written about the beauty of a garden. Is it the arrangement of the trees? Is it the flowers? It's just impossible to define because it's endless. It's infinite. There are infinite ways you can arrange a garden, and there are an infinite number of beautiful gardens. You always can go on and make them more beautiful, and you can make different kinds of beauty. Of course, there are some laws you have to obtain, but even those laws cannot be fixed down on an intellectual level, cannot be written down. So what does it help? Then I read another author who looked, what is a beautiful face? Or what is a beautiful woman? There was one book called Feminine Beauty, and it had statues of women from the Greek times and very old, incredible beautiful statues, incredible beautiful women. And one associates, of course, beauty, the shape of the body, of the female body, makes a very beautiful impression. If it's beautiful, or to look. But what is it? Can you define it? How can you compare the beauty of a garden with the beauty of a woman? Completely different proportions. Do you want to measurement? Do you want to say, oh, it's the golden cut, or it's some other harmonic measure? Surely there is something, but I think as an artist, then there is the beauty in music. How do you want to compare that with the beauty of the female body? How do you want to compare it with the beauty of the garden? What makes a melody beauty? You just know it. This is a catchy melody, or this is a very beautiful one. This is an unbelievably moving melody. It's a sad one, or gives another emotion. One thing you know, beauty gives you an emotion, and when you perceive it, and when you create beauty, you have to create it out of the deepest levels of the human being, straight out of the spirit. And it's unbelievable work to create beauty. And as I say, beauty is so diverse, it can cover all of human activity. It's not only painting, it's not only music, it's not only gardens, it's not only females. The flowers are beautiful. Everything can be beautiful. And the buildings, the way we speak, the way we move, the way we dress ourselves, it stretches over all kinds of activity. And because of the infinity in it, it is impossible to lay down a specific, to put it down and write it down as a certain set of rules. To compose a beautiful piece of music, you have to do this and that and the other, and you have to look that this follows that. This is just nonsense because of the infinity in it. There have been millions of beautiful songs written over the centuries and different people writing all. So beauty changes in time all the time. It changes from one type of music to another type of music. We have beautiful classical music, we have beautiful jazz, we have beautiful Arabian music, stunningly beautiful melodies from Vietnam I heard recently. So it's infinite. That is one thing. It's infinite. And because infinity cannot be grasped or understood with the brain, through brain activity, we must go to a deeper level, and that level is the level of intuition, of emotions, things which move you. I think one thing we can say: beauty always moves you, and it moves you in an uplifting way. And if beauty does not move, it does not uplift you, then it's not beauty, even if people would say it's beautiful. And so I think there's certainly one quality. Beauty is uplifting, and if we would build our cities more beautiful or looked for beauty in our home environment, it would be a much more uplifting experience to live in those surroundings. So I'll pass it back to you. Perhaps you might want to add something, or perhaps
Yes,
one
yes,
of the listeners might want to give some feedback, what he or she thinks
yes,
about beauty.
yes. Do listen, yes, listeners. We do want to get you involved, so please do get in touch with us. In my dictionary, I discovered this: what is beauty? A combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases the aesthetic senses, especially the sight. But I think from what you've been describing, Brother Reiner, it's not only sight, although that seems to be the bigger factor. But because music, you can't see the music, can you? So it's not.
No,
It's
it's
obviously
it's
not. So that is
it
sound.
yeah,
In
it's a restriction. It it um it covers all the senses,
yes,
and through the senses, either if it's visual, it goes in through the visual senses, and we delight in the colors, in the shapes, but to try to pin them down, it is almost impossible. If you go out into nature and you see the mountain ranges, the snow, if you are sensitive to that, if you have an aesthetic sense which is alive, I mean, certainly there are many people, perhaps even the majority of people, who do not care a lot about beauty. But people who are alive and they walk through a flowery meadow, they feel like, oh, that's paradise. Or they see a fair lady. The fair lady, in the true sense of the word, means the lady which is surrounded by an atmosphere of purity and beauty. That is what is in that word, fairness in it. That fair lady, of course, it's an enchanting sight. It's something enchanting. And it's a splendor of paradise. And I think true beauty always enchants. And that's where its uplifting thing is. It enchants you, and it brings a spell. It spreads a spell onto this world, which is a reflection of paradise. So
Yes.
definitely, I mean, who wouldn't say he's not moved by a beautiful melody? It's not just the aesthetic sense, it's not just the visual senses, it's all the senses.
Yes.
And if you see clouds or something like this, or a thunderstorm, even the thunder or roaring lion, all so different, I think it is impossible to try to intellectually tie down and set up a set of rules defining what is beautiful and not beautiful. I think that is an endeavor which has always failed and will always fail.
So to explore that a bit further, Brother Reiner, if you talk about people, some people, well, I don't like to use this word ugly, but some may look beautiful and some may look ugly, but that doesn't mean the person is ugly. On the surface, the person may look beautiful or may not look beautiful, but the person inside, the personality, it doesn't reflect. So when we talk about beauty, that's what I'm trying to point out. So when we say beauty, it's not skin deep, it's deeper than that. And so is there some sort of reasoning or explanation how somebody can look beautiful on the outside and may not be so nice in the personality inside, and vice versa? Is there, what could be, because obviously you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, and all these are the sort of lots of sayings that we hear, uh, and and yet obviously we are attracted to beauty, as you've very pointed out. Everybody's attracted to beauty, and if something doesn't look attractive, then they can say, oh, that's not beautiful, and then you can judge it and say, oh no, that's not a good thing, and it's not necessarily so. So in talking on the human beings now, not, we know nature, basically everything looks, well, at least flowers, we can say they always look beautiful, animals look beautiful. I mean, sometimes I must say you see things in nature like I can't think of a particular insect or something, beetle or something may not look so beautiful, because
Yeah, like a
some
slug,
of
for
them look,
example.
slug, exactly, they isn't very attractive at all, and yet we know they're needed, whatever purpose they have, they're needed in nature. So can we explain those sort of non-beautiful or not maybe ugly beings? Is there still a beauty there, but we have to go?
Yeah, I think we have to. I don't want to go too deep into such things, because I want to remain understandable. And also, I must say, I'm not here. I'm also myself a student of those things. Beauty is one incredible deep thing. Not many. In fact, I think I've never read anything reasonable about beauty, except definitely not in a philosophical sense. And so generally we must say that you talked about the physical body and about female beauty. And of course, this is not just a cover of a book. On the cover of a book, of course, you can have a beautiful cover and you can hide the contents. That's and I felt that even very often that is even abused to make especially in the religious spheres, that they make very beautiful covers, but if you read objectively what the religion says, it's everything but beautiful. And but our physical body will create all the time. We have practically created it, shaped it spiritually, and we have to, by understanding the laws of creation, we know that through karma, through our karma, we are incarnated already in bodies which more or less have a gene set for a beautiful body. But the genes are not only the only determining factor for beauty. It's the spirit itself which forms the body. You realize it yourself that when you smile, a smiling face is never ugly. A smiling face is always beautiful. It just changes the features so much. And then you can see what the spirit can do with the body. It can change it. Your attitude, your inward attitude can change the body almost immediately. And a person who has been fair and has a purity will incarnate in this life in a body which is more or less beautiful, I would say. And as a rough rule, not taking all the influences into consideration, we can say that's true. Of course, it can be otherwise, and a person can change very quickly to very negative, or a person with a bad disposition, with a bad humor, being ugly in his language and ugly everywhere, can become during lifetime and has normally a body which is similar, can become good. Let us say just improves, and but you will see that even the visual features change towards the better as far that is possible. And you have it the other way around, that a very beautiful person can fall and slip and become very vulgar in its manner. And sometimes you're really shocked. How can such a beautiful person be so vulgar in its expressions and the way it speaks? Definitely the person does not speak beautiful anymore, because already by certain words, the the language, the ability, the speaking becomes non-beautiful, becomes ugly or off-putting or hurting other people. Beauty never hurts another person, or it's never proud. Beauty is not compatible with pride or being showing off. That always turns out to be ugly. So the language changes immediately with the attitude of the person, and the body does that to a much lesser degree. That's why you can get, because it's not so changeable, let us say, as the language. But for example, the expression of the eyes is very changeable. And if a person should become good with an ugly body, you will, if you look in that person's eye, you will find purity. You find them clear and truthful, and you can know, and you will know that you can rely on this person. And that is in spite of the body being of a not so pleasing shape. So I would say the body is not that easily to be shaped and so immediately shapeable by the spirit. And as as let us say, the movements or the expression of the eyes or the way a person speaks or the way a person moves. And that's why we can have discrepancies here between the nobility of the spirit inside the body and the body itself. But I think, okay.
Yes. No, thank you very much for that, Brother Rani, because you've expanded it and you know shown us that there are ways of viewing this beauty. You know, it is a deeper level that you have to look at it. So thank you for actually showing us that. Dear listeners, this is Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday night spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And the topic for tonight is beauty, simplicity, and purity. and we've just been talking on beauty, but Brother Rani, you've been linking it to purity quite a lot there, and so maybe I will go into purity now, and yes, now, okay, let's go with, let's say, children, because people all look at their children or any children and say, oh, they're pure, they're innocent, and and they look radiant, and they somehow there's a sense of purity. They always look beautiful somehow. So, and you've already mentioned that the body is the spirit makes the body, and it's according to its nature that the body will form, although it takes time for the body to take the form. So, in the case of children, Brother Rainer, would you say they are innocent and pure? Is there something, because everybody has treats them that way, that obviously they're young and they're growing, and so you always forgive them for what they do, but is it really like that? That they're
Oh, Brother Saad, I must say, somehow the sound is very bad of your microphone. I don't know
okay.
what it is.
Okay, I will. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better. There's also background noise.
Okay. I'm gonna ask someone to sort it out. If you just
Okay, but in any case,
yeah.
I think beauty is a wonderful way for us to assess our environment and to 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 see if something good or bad. If a person speaks an off-putting language, it's a good thing to step back and say, well, leave that person alone. That's not a good person. And the same thing, how he moves and how he dresses himself, all those things tell a lot about the person. And that's the way we should judge. And we must be very careful, I think, to say if you go with the aesthetic sense and look at children, it is not that the children are innocent and beautiful. There are very ugly children among them with an incredible vicious character. And I talked once to a policeman, and he told me that with the time his sense got so sharpened and he could almost detect in children the ones who had criminal energy. And in a way, I know he was right, yes. And this is just an illusion to say the children are being born with a clean slate, and they are innocent, and they are beautiful, and they are radiant, and they are fresh. You see children which are grumpy and brash in their manners and offending in their manners almost all the time. So it's not a child that is a child is not necessarily beautiful. And in fact, they even do not often like children. They can be very show-off thing. A bully who maltreats the other children, definitely not a beautiful person, neither in his character, nor the way he speaks, nor the way he acts. So if one sees a child which is really sweet with blue eyes, there are many of them, and I know there's a kindergarten right next to my house where I can see the mothers bringing their children in the morning, and very beautiful women, and there are many beautiful children, and in that kindergarten specifically, but it's not that all children are beautiful. So I think the important thing perhaps one can take with you, if you try to judge something you encounter in life or you see, the sense of beauty can immediately tell you what you have to think of the person. And especially as a woman, you can take precautionary measures to avoid that danger. So that unfortunately, we have been given this sense of beauty where we can assess things very quickly. It's not intellectual. You do not have to think about it. It's an immediate realization if something is beautiful. And where true beauty is, you can trust, because beauty without truthfulness does not exist. And beauty and truthfulness is an aspect of purity. Now, about purity, it's incredibly difficult to speak nowadays. And who knows something about purity? Where is it? There's definitely not a pure human being, including myself, of course, who can be called pure or something, an entirely pure human being. We have all been soiled, and who thinks of himself differently lives under a deep misconception. I think even we have lost as humanity now any deeper understanding of purity, and it's something we have to regain. And we can find it here and there, and of course we can create something in purity, even being rather impure and having nasty, disgusting or off-putting features, each one of us, and habits, and still we can create something beautiful. That's what I definitely think. And to create a beautiful melody which moves thousands of people and can move thousands of people to tears. That is, say, like well, everyone has his own favorites. For me, I would say there are many beautiful melodies, but let us say Stevie Wonder. I think they're very good songs, very moving and uplifting. Not everyone might like them, but it happens just that I like him very much. And so human beings, artists definitely can create beautiful things, although we generally are in a state of, I would say, we all have big faults and are all off-putting to someone who can say honestly that he's always in his manners beautiful. Beautiful manners never injure another person. And a pure person never would injure another person, never would speak a harsh word to it. He would also not be sickly sweet. He would be truthful in everything he does, with a straightforward, strong truthfulness, which is a powerful thing. But he would never hurt another human being. And that's the difference. Wherever you have hurting or maltreating other human beings, you know there's impurity, there's evil, there's darkness. And where there is the light, there's also purity, and there an injuring of another human being cannot take place. There's always the greatest respect. There's always a respecting of the free will of the other person. You will never enforce something onto another person, and you care about the other person, and you want the other person, you regard the other person as a flower, and you want to help to make it smile and develop those flowers, to develop that beauty in the other person. I think that's the really deepest sense of life, is to live like this, that we spread beauty around us and that we help develop the people we come in contact with to develop that beauty. And so I'll pass it back to you now.
Yes, thank you for that, Brother Rainer. In fact, that's what I was going to ask about, really. Can we, because it looks like we are not perfect, and I mean, obviously, as you said, the purity is not there 100% for sure in any person. And
Well,
so,
I think you even put it the wrong way. 100%, or we are not perfect.
yes,
It is, I think we are as a humanity rather on the bottom end.
right,
There's a little perfection here and there, or and there is a little bit of purity here and there, and we have to go a very long way to to become that noble being, which is our ideal. We want to be noble, but there is no nobility.
so then the question would be, can we achieve it? Uh, or at least can we do it on the earth? Because it seems, um, you know, there's not much good examples that can. There are a few, but then we're, let's say, surrounded in the majority not with as human beings, of course, not in nature, because we know there's a lot of beauty there. But uh, yeah, as human beings, can we really achieve purity on this earth, or is it something like a thing we can only strive for? And
Well,
just
what stops you? Tell me what stops you from being, from, let us say, talking now in a very natural, direct, simple way. Or you can also decide to talk very complicated. Is something stopping you?
no, nothing's stopping me. Um,
Okay, so why don't we start right now?
yes, when you say it, it sounds so simple.
It is very simple.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah,
just when you walk downstairs, smile, be friendly to the people you meet, and don't have a long face. And when you walk down the street, just try to walk in an upright position, which looks and try to move graciously. Nothing's stopping you.
right.
The thing is simply just, it's like in the Nike advertisement, just do it. That's the thing. That's the most difficult thing, is just do it, because we have to do ourselves. We like the excuses. We like say, oh, in this environment, I cannot do it. Oh, with a colonial past, we cannot be good. That is really responsible for that we kill each other in tens of thousands or something. Or what do we say? Oh, the psychology, how I've grown up with the deprivations I've grown up. And my mother, she didn't treat me right. No wonder I have 10,000 of hang-ups. We have developed as a human being, because we are incapable of this just do it. We have developed these huge ideologies of whose one of the main purposes is just to excuse me and justify myself why I am not good, why I am ugly, why I am behaving ugly. And this way it serves as an excuse. And psychology does, and Freud did it with the childhood, which influenced you. Some other people do it with the environment, which influenced you. It's just an excuse. And the environment goes on forever. And we must get rid of this, and we must start doing it right now. And
And
there's nothing stopping you except our own self, and something very strange, because our own self is really weak. We cannot just do it. We are too weak to simply do it. And that's why humanity developed those theories of apologies. And we must get out of this trap. There are no apologies really for an individual to maltreat another human being or to act not in a beautiful way. It is hard because we have now to every moment monitor ourselves and be self-aware. I think it's a very good word recently. This being awake, being self-aware and observant of ourselves, and align ourselves with what is good. And goodness and beauty are just like sisters, they go hand in hand. Goodness is always beautiful, and beautiful is always goodness. And the same as this Keats saying, truth is beauty, and beauty is truth. In a very, that is really a true saying, and people do not understand it, and even professors at the universities do not understand it. And that means really because truth means to live according to the living laws in creation, and those laws, they demand truthfulness, clarity, simplicity, directness, and purity. And by consequence, it is always beautiful. The ugly thing which we see existing outside of ourselves is not really truth. It does not swing in the truth. That's why it's ugly. Although it exists physically and we can find ugly things, but they will collapse. They are not the real thing. They are not true. They do not stand on the laws of creation. Ugliness is always a product of the human being.
Thank you, Brother Rainer. I can say Brother Gregory is about to join us, so I'm just going to add him to the show. Just 1 second. Brother Gregory, are you there? Hopefully he's there now. Brother Gregory, are you there now?
Hello?
Oh, welcome to the show, Brother Gregory.
Hello.
Dear listeners, yes, Brother Gregory has just joined us. Please tell us where you are and how's the weather where you are, Brother Gregory?
It's just cold in Brussels.
Cold, just like here. Very good. Okay. Dear listeners, we've been talking about beauty, simplicity, and purity. In fact, we focused on beauty at the beginning and just started on purity. So we will also cover, of course, simplicity. We would love you to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 31366. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Brother Gregory, we've been talking also about beauty and truth, and also the laws of creation. And so far we haven't got into simplicity yet. So I think I will bring it up now because. Would you say, Brother Gregory, there is a connection between beauty, simplicity? Because you see beauty in nature, you see that the gardens, let's say, you see lovely flowers, beautiful flowers, all variety of them, and in one way they look simple, and then another way they look complex because you get such a variety of them. So would you say there is simplicity out there in this nature and in beauty?
Question. It is not that there's beauty out there. There is beauty in nature. In fact, nature itself in its expression is beautiful and it is simple. When you observe the seasons, how one season follows the other, there is no complexity in it. It doesn't just, from winter, it doesn't become summer. There's a transition, there's continuity. Therefore, one would say that beauty, in fact, all beauty is simple. And whatever is simple has some innate beauty in it. And nature itself, being the basis from which all references are made here in the world of matter, is intrinsically beautiful because the forms that it produces are transparent. Like I mentioned, the seasons. One can easily observe how one season follows the other. Also, in its expression, when a tree is, from the Beginning, it grows as a tender plant, or from the seed is planted into the soil, becomes a tender plant. It grows bigger and bigger, and then it comes to maturity, and it shed its leaves or its fruits. Every child knows about this, any child that observes enough. So there is no complexity in it. It is the way man sees things that is complex, not nature itself that expresses itself in simple rules. And these are made possible through the laws which are hewn into nature.
Thank you for that. And earlier with Brother Reiner, in fact, just before you joined us, we were talking about purity and how we observe that the human beings are not very pure in the world today, but it's very easy and simple to just become pure. Just nobody's stopping us, as Brother Reiner said. It's nothing to stop us to to become pure in everything we say or how we act. So I'm going to continue with you, Brother Gregory, on that. So would you say the so let's connect that with this simplicity, living life simply. Um, how can we strive for that? Because in the world of today, with all these material goods and things that are surrounding us, does it mean, well, basically, I want to sort of, I know we can't really define these things like directly in a material sense. As we've discovered with beauty, you can't actually define beauty as an intellectual understanding. It's something that pleases you. So with regards to simplicity, to live in a simple way, does that mean we should have less material goods? Is there something with regard to that, or is it some other meaning when we say live simply?
To live simply only means to make use of that which is necessary and not just accumulate that which is not needed. The needs of man are very simple. You eat or you drink when it's necessary to drink or eat. It's not that one has to keep on drinking because one feels like it, or to eat until the stomach can take no more. These are complexities which man has introduced into it. As long as that which is necessary for the body to function simply are met, all other things are extras, extra accumulations which are not necessary. As long as one keeps to that which is necessary for the body and for the soul, then one lives his very simple life. Because by the time you start wanting more than you need, then those becomes complexities which sometimes are not sustainable.
Thank you for that. Brother Reiner, another aspect of beauty is harmony. And in a way, as I say, the topic for tonight, beauty, simplicity, and purity, they seem to align, together very well. And so, with regards to harmony, you've said about when we meet someone, not even meet, we just can smile and radiate that. And so, would you say, if we, to achieve harmony, is it just simple principles that we need to adopt, like you said, just having that happiness in us, and just just looking at every person with a sort of a pure thought behind, whatever when we see something, with not to judge, like we know that we have seen that, not to look at the surface or what is going outside on the surface only, because that's just the outer beauty, you could say, if it is beauty, but what's within it, and and those things you can only see by meeting people, by interacting with people. So my question on that would be, harmony, is it something, again, can we have it just by ourselves, through our thoughts? Or does it require more than that? Do we need some more ingredients to have harmony?
Okay, I hope I understood the question
Sorry, I'm not clear. I
properly.
wasn't so clear.
But
Yeah.
I just repeat the last thing.
Yeah.
Harmony, can we have it by ourselves? And or do we need something else? Okay, harmony, of course, is a very important thing. And when we live, when we live together in a society, we like to live in a harmonious way with the other people. Now, and harmony, of course, presupposes other elements. You live in harmony with other things. Let us say you live in harmony with the environment. You live in harmony with your wife. A harmony in music is several tones together. And those sounds, if you sound them, they are harmonious. They swing, they vibrate, they make a consonant, they're in consonance. And and that vibration and everything with and the human beings, when we create, so when we live with other human beings, that is at the same time music. It's very difficult to explain, but it's a harmonious swinging. Even humanity as a whole, the different peoples with all their different characteristics and different abilities, if everyone um, was pursuing the good and striving towards greater purity, and then even the different peoples would result in a wonderful harmonious chord resounding through the universe. So I'm very deep now, but but we create harmonies all the time, and you need different things. In the most largest level, it's the peoples on the globe, and and if they live properly, every one of the peoples would contribute one tone, one note to that big harmony in which the earth should swing. Now, we are, of course, very far away from that. There's discord everywhere. There is, we know the actions, the things happening in the countries, they are of such a horrendous nature that that it is really very hard to see those things and and still keep up a positive relationship with many of the groups which commit such horrendous crimes. And but definitely harmony is a very important part of beauty, and it is always, and we must endeavor to become harmonious. Now, this is not, you said one must be natural in all of that. To be in harmony with another human being doesn't mean to beam him and shake and say hello and how are you. It is sometimes to also realize that person has to be left alone, and I better pass by that person quietly. But your intuition will tell you. And the important thing is to be awake with your intuition, and your intuition will tell you how you should interact with that other person, if you should help. But kindness and elevated way of speaking, avoiding off-putting and injuring words, you know 100% that is always wrong. Anything ugly belongs to darkness and doesn't belong to the light. And When we act, we interact, and when we behave, when we speak, um, when we address our attention to something, when we interact, we should never hurt the other person, never injure his soul, never maltreat it. And that and that kind of loving relationship is limitless. Is limitless. It concerns everybody, between any human beings. There are not one. Love does not exclude, like like ideologies do and religions do often. It is like when Jesus said, "Love thy neighbor as thyself," then that encompasses every human being, be he Muslim or non-Muslim, be he Christian or non-Christian. That does not matter. It just says, love thy neighbor as thyself. There is no exclusion. And those great laws of Jesus, they are all universal, they're infinite, they're always applicable, and they apply to all human beings. They never make limits between, never draw a line. Those are the bad people which have to be eliminated, or which we are not nice to, or they are unimportant, or any such thing. That does not happen. So yes, we should try to be harmonious, and we should try to be good and well behaved, and in fact, if we can be beautiful in the way we speak and can be beautiful in the way we act, we should try to do it, and we should always endeavor to do it. It's not easy to reach.
Thank you
Perhaps
for.
I'd like to say something to simplicity.
Yes.
That's of course true. In art, there's been a lot written about simplicity, but let me tell you a Japanese tale which I was told by my arts teacher here, and he said there was some. It's a very famous tale, but I remember only the gross outline. The king in Japan, some king or whatever the king is called there, the king demanded from his painter at the court that he painted him flying swans. So, and the painter disappeared, and the king was waiting for his flying swans, and the painter was just not to be seen. Weeks passed, months passed, and he met him just by chance. The painter, the king met him after months and months and said to him, "Why don't you come? And have you painted now those flying swans?" And the painter said, "Well, I'll come in 10 minutes," and just going to the residence. And so the king went there and waited, and after 10 minutes, actually, the painter came. And he had a canvas, an empty white canvas, and he just painted flying swans in a few seconds, a few lines, like the Japanese dawn. Incredible beauty, stunningly beautiful. The essence of the swan has been kept, of flying swans. Their beauty has been kept on the canvas. And the king said, "Well, why? It's wonderful, but why did you not come earlier? And why did I have to wait months and months and months?" And the painter said, "Well, come with me and follow me." And so the king followed the painter, and they went to his studio. And the painter opened a cupboard, and there fell thousands of pictures of flying swans out against it. So there were thousands of paintings everywhere and stacked there and falling around. And That is the simplicity. That is how you achieve simplicity. That is work and work and work and discipline. And finally, at the end of a long road, you come to that thing where you just can draw with a few lines, you can capture something which is inexpressible in words. The beauty of flying swans and the essence of the swans in a few lines, but behind them is really hard work. So we must not mistake simplicity as something which is easily achieved. This is the culmination of years of a hard work day by day of complete application. And you can see that in music too. Something like any great musician, they have been playing the instrument all the time. In the end, they play a wonderful melody as if it would be no effort behind it. But this state of effortlessness has been achieved by hard work, application to application to application. That's how Miles Davis could play his songs like this. But he was an absolute master who has practiced day and night. And the same is for Stevie Wonder. And the same is practically for any big artist. So we must not mistake that simplicity is at the beginning of a journey. It's the end of a long journey. And that is true for mathematics, for any human activity, for any dancer in a ballet. It is a daily exercise till she or he can dance that part with that ease, which really then enchants an audience or says, oh, that looks so easy. But it is the end of a long process. So I pass it back to you, Saad.
Thank you for that, Brother Rainer. Brother Gregory, I want to go to you next. And what Brother Rainer has been saying, it seems that these beautiful things we've been talking about, beauty, simplicity, and purity, they seem to be very alive and very clear when we look at spiritual sort of aspects of life, like we've obviously nature, it's automatically there, but when it involves human beings, and I'm especially talking as human beings on the earth, where we have said that there's disharmony, there's so much going on, which is not in beauty, and yet, and then we also just talked about harmony too, but it seems that these harmony, simplicity, beauty are only ideal things, and in the world of, let's say, the real world of the earth, where we human beings are at the moment, I know I don't want to go too much into politics, but we know daily in UK we are talking about Brexit, and even tonight the Parliament is meeting. It looks like the total disharmony is going on there. Nobody can agree on anything. Even the country is divided. Is it possible to have harmony, basically, when we just, everybody has differences of views and understanding, and they want different things. Let me even just put it like that. People want different things, and so is it actually possible, when there are all different things that people want, to achieve harmony? And because it looks like it's just an ideal for the individual, like Brother Ryan has mentioned about art and music. Obviously some people like a particular type of music, another type of music, but each of this music you can see beauty in it, and it seems to be only these arts and certain subjects that you can actually appreciate beauty. But with the other aspect of life, which is running a country or government, it doesn't seem possible to have such things like harmony. So is that possible in such a world?
Of course, to achieve these things are always possible. Isn't there harmony in football when you watch your football teams and see how they score their goals, how they organize themselves? And harmony is always constructive. To construct means to have prepared. that preparation has to be done again and again and again. It is indolence that makes people just shy away from preparation. You mentioned Brexit, which is quite remarkable. Whoever wishes to go for a journey must prepare for that journey. If you do not prepare for the journey and estimate all the challenges, then by the time you embark on that journey without any preparation, then there will be confusion. No one has heard of a musician who started playing beautiful tunes without having practiced. The spirit deep within is willing, but the physical body has to be compelled gradually to adjust itself to the rhythm. So it doesn't just start immediately. Gradually and gradually, one arrives there. Therefore, simplicity, beauty, whatever one cares to call it, has to be prepared for. There is always preparation and thorough preparation. That does not mean one will not have challenges along the line. The only time you have that you don't need to prepare for any of this is when you intend to have failure on the long run. So wherever you have simplicity and you have harmony, there you have consonance. Otherwise, you have dissonance, which expressed in a different way is discord. So when you have discord everywhere, how can you build up? Because you're trying to build up and it's being torn down. Because there was no preparation. There was no calm reflection on it. But whenever there had been preparation, then the challenges are contained and minimized. The different needs of the people or the different expressions can be put together for that which is upbuilding. So the problem has always been if you fail to plan, that means you are planning to fail because all that is genuine and all that is good has to be earned, and man has to work very hard at it, not only physically, but also spiritually.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. I just want to follow on from what you're saying. You know, when you gave the example of the football team, normally it's the manager, well, at least the manager picks the team, even if some of the players have been brought in by someone else. He picks the teams, and obviously they train and they get assessed, and you know, in the end, the manager decides who's going to play in which position, and so on. And so, what I'm trying to say is that is one person running a team there. When it comes to government, yes, there might be a prime minister or president or whatever running like a head of the team, but then they need like the other, I don't want to call them team members, but other people to cooperate with the, you know, to get this whatever plan they want to propose to get through the system. So would you say that when we have democracy, there's like too much obstacles there for to achieve something that will work, because there's always somebody opposing, you know, at least with the manager, it's one man making the decisions. Even if people disagree with it, they play with that, whatever the manager does, they play with it. But with the government, it seems it's more complicated, and it doesn't seem that. So what I'm pointing to, is it maybe a system of the government that is not working, not just that there is no plan or lack of planning or preparation.
There is lack of planning. There is lack of consultation at the initial level. For you mentioned Brexit. Those who wanted it, where is their plan? None. So what is expected? You are going for a journey, there is no plan. You then also have that the so-called leader or the prime minister or the football coach and all that only watches the different, only selects or what he or she finds that is going to support the harmony and then build up. But wherever there has not really been a plan, then catastrophe is bound to follow. Democracy or no democracy, whatever is needed is the people come together and work together in consonance, not in dissonance. For a house divided against itself cannot stand. That is dissonance. Whereas a house in which the parts all come together to build up, of course we stand. So one should not underestimate the power of coming together. No one who lives in the same neighborhood will want to just go their way. That doesn't happen. Have you ever seen someone who doesn't need his neighbor? Whenever there were fires around, it is said one for all for one. So it is very clear. That is how nations are built. That is how families are built. Or have you seen a family that hasn't come together? The man and the woman not coming together before they produce children? Have you? So there are so many examples that are out there that people can learn from. But when they refuse to learn from it, there's nothing you can do. Many will say it flew in the air. They just picked it off the air. That is not true. You have to learn the same language before you are able to communicate. If you don't learn the same language, how do you interface with other people? So there must be some commonality in all these things. Whether you have a prime minister or not is immaterial. You have a country like Switzerland. Who is the prime minister of Switzerland? Are they not all different in Switzerland? Are they not getting on? So they have different cantons. So there are enough examples for people to learn from. So, and what they have there, is it not democracy? Or are they fighting themselves? Is it based on dissonance? No, because the country is still there. So things are not as difficult as they may seem, as long as they are planning and there is some form of agreement that you can build up from what is common from all the people rather than keep disagreeing because there was never consultations and planning.
Thank you for that, Brother Rainer. I remember, last few shows we've been talking about dogma and truth, and last week we were sort of, basically we're talking again about dogma as well, and I'm just thinking just a little bit more on this Brexit issue. You see people standing, firmly to, I'm going to say ideology, one ideology, another ideology, and obviously not willing to, and there's no majority for one ideology, if I can say like that. And there's not enough willing to people to compromise to actually say, okay, we can't get a majority on any one of this ideology or ideas. Let's try to agree on something. So what I'm going to ask you is the approach to anything, when you're dealing with something, it should be really about achieving harmony and what is good for, what will bring people together. And so can we, what can I say this? I guess what point I want to ask you is really, can man come to that recognition really, that if we are going to live together and work together, we need to move towards the common ground, like Brother Gregory's been saying. How can we can see that, and when people have such firm views, it's like an impossible job.
Well, okay. I think I will. Mainly, I believe things are, as Brother Greg has said it, and I don't want to add a lot because. But let me just this. There are many ways to Rome, and politics is really to finding a good way, perhaps the best way, if one can agree on the best way to reach Rome. Since there are so many ways, and which is quite good, people start putting the reasons for this one and for that one, and a kind of friction occurs. That is inevitable here on Earth. We are not perfect. We do not know the perfect way, and it does not matter. Essentially, from a spiritual point of view, it does not really matter if I go, as long as I reach Rome, if I reach it a day later or not. And the thing is, and the problem is now that yes, people are not free in their thinking, and they are bound to ideologies, and ideologies are incrustations. They are human-made statements, beliefs, and which are then solidified in religions. One simply says, oh, it's in the Holy Quran or it's in the Holy Bible, so this statement must be absolute true. You give it a kind of absoluteness, and you do not think, but you have to examine, is that statement really good? Is it beautiful? Does it help the other one? Is it good to the other person? And we talked last time a lot about the Quran and about one of the statements which is there, which is obviously incompatible with beauty, incompatible with with love, which does not harm the other person, and which is essential for our actions. Let us say how the woman is being looked at. That one statement I quoted from the cow. The woman be like fertile ground to you. Go to her whenever you please. That is not the way to treat another person. But in the framework of the Quran, it has been sanctified. In terms of politics, there are other dogmas, like the socialist left, of course, believes in socialist policies, and the socialist policies they are also dogmatic. We have to live in certain ways. And I think the conservatives probably are, in my opinion, the least dogmatic ones, although nowadays I think also dogmas have to sneak in. We have to become flexible again, throw away those dogmas and think without these incrustations. Now, those dogmatic things, they can only occur because people like the written. They do not distinguish anymore really what is man-made and what is just a simple saying, and it is not beautiful integrated into a logical thing. The truth is always logical, and everything emanating from God's will, always works in perfection. So in perfection, you have no contradictions, and in a way, a beautiful theory, which is a true theory, in the sense how Keats meant it, truth is beauty, and beauty is truth. You will find no contradictions in such a system. And in my opinion, you will not find it in the laws of creation. how they are set forth in the Grail message. But you find it, of course, in other books, and it's a very easy reflection to do it. We quoted also last time a dogma again. I'm just go to the Quran because we just mentioned that last time with the thing. If God created woman, then if he then afterwards says you need to cut something away from the woman, we're talking here about genital mutilation, then he's in the same way saying, oh, the woman I've created was imperfect. Afterwards, you have to cut away something. This is not the way it works. You can assume that when God created woman, it was perfect, and the human being, if that saying comes, even if it's in the Quran or if it's in the Hadith, you have to cut away something, not too little and not too much, then this comes from a human being. And you can find it out if you have this axiom and think, whatever issued from God is absolute perfection, absolute purity, and beauty. And the laws which created those things, which created woman, you are not to interfere with those things which have come forth through the weaving of God's laws, through the workings of God's laws, because there is perfection in it. Whoever says something like this, you have to interfere or do an operation of something, is really at the same time saying, I believe God is not beautiful or is not perfect. So, and with our dogmatic things in our dogmatic theories and philosophies, of course, we know right away they are man-made. But for example, Karl Marx, he did not believe in God, but he also tried to sanctify his theory. He said, my theory is the only scientific one, and it's a scientific truth, my theory. So my analysis of capitalism is scientifically proved. And that is the new type of God where you try to say, this what I'm saying, I put a cloak around, is sanctified, it is scientific. And of course it is not. And we have to really examine it and really think, can we believe it? And of course people behave like this and they are in these rigid barriers of their ideologies. The ideologies are like straight jackets. You cannot move properly anymore. And and everything becomes predictable because they are like, it turns you into a robot. You have to say this and this, and the arguments repeat themselves, and you have heard them a million of times, and you have seen in a million of times it does not work because he's ideologically blind, and he's blind to reality. He tries to play things down which do not fit in his theories, or he tries to keep them away from people if scientific results do not support some view. We know that the left is all the time trying to push down and oppress oppress findings which do not fit in the picture. And of course you have to do it when you want to uphold the theory. And wherever there is playing down taking place, or pushing down away truths, or not allowing this statistics going there or that statistic going there, you know there's an ideology at work. There's one example I just want to mention. For example, in the DDR, the Democratic Republic, communist at the time of Germany, they did not publish the suicide rates anymore because it was a socialist society. According to the theory, it should be all heaven there and there should be no suicides. Now, at one point, I think there were more suicides than in Germany. So they simply said, oh, we do not publish them anymore. No one counts them, no one does them, because it did not fit into the picture. And this is exactly what we have today. Human beings, we are being controlled in the grip of our theories, and we do not dare to break the dogmas. But to break the dogma is our only way to survive. And we must really have some axioms how we can find out what is a dogma. And I said one of them is that it must be without contradiction, it must be universal, and it must be alive. It doesn't, a law is always applicable to everything in all times and will always be, like Jesus said, when heaven and earth is gone, my my word will still be there. And that means how it's changing in history. Whenever you have something tied to history or to different society, or something cutting out other human being, cutting out, making a line between humanity, those ones need to be exterminated, like the capitalists from the proletariat. Then there is something wrong. There's ideology, even if it is in the holy book. We have ideologies and we have dogmas in holy books because they are not holy. That's simply as that. They are unholy books to a very large extent. And we have, so that's why a lot of this friction comes about. But to come back, although there is this ideological warfare going on everywhere, which would disappear if we would strive for spiritual things again, because we live, the politics, our own politics is just an arrangement of gross material things. Are we better off in the EU or are we better off outside of the EU? Do we live better? Do we live more at ease? Do we have more wealth at our disposal? Politics only concerns the physical welfare, but this is not the aim of life. The aim of life is we eat and we like to live comfortable in order to mature spiritually. And that is the real living. The real living is a spiritual life. And there we must mature. And for this reason, we have the experiences. And the aim of all the other things in politics is really just a bodily aim, to make it comfortable for the body. And of course, to have a society where there are streets, but it's all physical, where no one hurts the other. That's, of course, a little bit different. But, and to cut it back, there are the ideologies which make everything difficult. But here on earth, we have always also the problem that we never know quite which is the best way, and politics has to choose the best way. And there will be always a toing and froing until one finds the best way, or one finds the way which one thinks is the best. As long as we reach Rome, it's okay. Even if we reach it a week later, than the fastest way. We never know quite if we have taken the best route. But through this thinking about things and trying to find out the things, this highlights problems, and we mature if we always never forget the spiritual dimension. So I hope I've been clear. I've been talking a long time, so I let the others talk.
Yes, thank you so much, Brother Rainer. Yes, you have been, I would say, very clear. Dear listeners, you're listening to the Tuesday night spiritual discussion program on Bless Radio. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. In the topic for tonight, we're discussing beauty, simplicity, and purity. And please do join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 313 66. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 313 66. Brother Gregory, I was thinking, we've talked about the gross material, like Brother Ryan has been saying, politics, it really affects only that, and real life is spiritual life. And we've mentioned the natural laws, or the laws of creation, where everything works within these natural laws. So I just thought, if we can actually remind our listeners about the laws, and show that there's beauty, simplicity, and purity working in these laws. So, yeah, if you can and sort of reflect that, if you tell us about the laws in that way.
The laws which are mentioned here are the laws of nature. But that in these forums, when we say the laws of nature, that does not mean this should be accepted as such. But these statements, these utterances must be examined with the best of one's intuition. That is the only way one can then come to understand the framework of this discussion. The laws of nature which are talked about here are simple in themselves, for we know that whatever is dense sinks, and whatever is light rises. This is so obvious that many don't even ask the question. One may refer to that as gravitation. All right, that which is heavy sinks, whereas that which is light rises. The second one may talk about is what one refers to the attraction of homogeneity, where many said birds of a feather flock together. In the so-called scientific arena, this is what we refer to as resonance. And since we are talking about beauty and harmony, resonance only means you have the different parts coming together and then they swing. They do not destroy themselves. So when resonance is mentioned, it means an attraction or an accumulation. In the areas where you have accumulation, there must be a reason why you have an accumulation, where you have birds of a similar feather coming together, or animals of similar nature coming together. Therefore, in these matters, one needs to examine these things very carefully. The last one, what that one may refer to, is that of reciprocity. For when reciprocity is meant, in the scientific circle, sometimes they call it action and reaction, but that's a very limited one. For when you put out something, all right, a thread is connected to you and will return what you have put out on the long run. When somebody goes to the farm and plants some crops, of course, the crops will germinate, they will mature, and will yield multiples. And on the long run, you reap back multiples. So that is more like reciprocity. Actually, behind these laws stands innumerable beings that are in charge of the administration of the work which is referred to as creation. We may not be able to see these beings with our physical eyes, but they exist. For it is these beings that, following the rules or the laws of creation, help in the weaving of our thoughts, in the weaving of our activities, in the weaving of our intuition, which we put out, and in reciprocal action or reciprocal activity, when these threads are mature, return to us that which we have put into creation. In that way, our faith, so-called karma, is clearly very well woven through our activities. So these laws permeate creation, permeate nature. They permeate nature through which we ourselves, By we ourselves, one is not talking about the physical body only, but the inner core of man that wears different cloaks. And these cloaks that the spirit wears may be referred to as the soul when the physical body has been shed. So there is continuity. These laws of nature ensure this continuity. For whatever a man has sown, it is that he or she must reap.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. Brother Reiner, I just want to again go back on the subject of our topic for tonight is beauty, simplicity, and purity, and I want to look at what how we should strive to live. So now we've talked about beauty, of the body, female, you can say, and even male has there's beauty there, and of course we know from you mentioned about the gardens and so on, and art and music. So what about um, other things people do like fashion and things like that? It seems to be, I can say, an addiction. People want to buy clothes all the time, like because new fashion is coming out, something like that. And although there might be something beautiful there, uh, somehow you get a sense that they're not really, that's not the real deal here. It's something that's just like, and we know it keeps changing, every, let's say every week or something new comes up and it's just replaced by something else. So, and we've talked about when we look at nature, it's like you feel, um, although on the earth, of course, everything will die. We know that, and the new plants and new things happen. But somehow it doesn't have the same appeal, within us, or let's say some of us. It's very difficult for me to say this because obviously many people are into fashion. I'm talking women here, really. If you have to be specific about a group of people, and there's a lot of women, into that. But somehow it doesn't feel like something. It's lasting there, There is beauty there, but it's not something satisfying. Let's say long-lasting satisfaction. So, could you help us to sort of understand what is that attraction for fashion that is somehow not as appealing? That is something that we find in nature, maybe, which seems to have more of a permanent attraction in it. So it's almost like, why do we keep having every week something new that seems to want to be attracted to that rather than just, accepting something? Yeah, do we? I mean, maybe I'm being also a bit ideological and saying, oh, we must have something very long, for permanent, rather than why can't we wear something every day new? It's just maybe I'm being ideological about it.
Well, okay, I think the question part is really that on the what is fashion and what offers the fashion world and what is beauty. And so it's very difficult to say because the fashion world, of course, has been written about in our culture. Millions of books about it. It's the vanity, the being blasé, where the outward glitter, the glitter and glamour really tries to hide the inward hollowness, and that we have just a craze for the catwalk and people people looking in this bored, blasé look, walking up and down. That in fact is not beauty. That is if it is beautiful somewhere, and most of the time it's very vulgar, shameless, and one does not feel good one does not feel good watching it, and it feels cheap, of course, because it's cheap. There's not an eternal there are not eternal values behind it. Behind beauty is always an eternal value. Behind beauty awakens a longing, and it awakens something very deep in me, which was dormant all the time, a longing for something I knew all the time. I knew simply because I'm a human being. Fashion does not awake those things. It just tries to dazzle you with the glitter and glamour, and they need the blasé expression, which means really blasé. I look a little bit bored because I'm a hollow person. I have nothing inside, and practically I think the models are just often like this, not always, but quite often. So let's go to real beauty. Why is that so stunning? There's an exhibition in London. Edward Burne-Jones, I like him very much personally. Perhaps someone else likes him too. And he was he he painted those stunningly beautiful women in scenes, often witches or mythological women and men, and I find it absolutely beautiful. I long for that stuff, and it awakes something in me, a very strong emotion, a memory of something. I know those things. And Edward Burne-Jones was once asked by someone the question, well, how do you know those things are true? It's just so beautiful. How do you know it doesn't exist only in paintings? And he said, because they are so beautiful, they must be true. And that is exactly the answer. We have inside us the capability to recognize beauty, because somewhere we have known it. It's like in a memory in us. God has placed it in the deepest parts of our being, the knowledge of what is beauty. And when we see beauty, it touches us, it moves us so deeply that we know this is the truth, this is beauty. And and therefore it must exist, because we know it from somewhere. We know it as a memory sleeping in our deepest souls. In our deepest being, there sleeps all the knowledge what beauty is, and it's awakened. And if an artist creates that beauty, those beautiful women, it's kind of a waking up process. And of course, the intellect and the intellectual world we have today, which is the spiritually void world, which we have just a materialist world. And the materialists do not have or deny those things. Still, they want something, but they have to replace it with something. And fashion, one can say, is the cheap replacement, the substitute the intellect offers us for real beauty. And that's why we are partly attracted, and many people are attracted. But I think any person searching for something deeper and for real beauty will soon find how empty, how hollow that whole fashion world is. And it's just glamour and glitz. And you are in the end off-put. And if you are with your intuition and your aesthetic sense is aligned, you will see that it's in most times it's rather shameless and not beautiful, and really almost in a grotesque way disfiguring the human being, especially the woman. One can often say that the fashion artists or the fashion designers worked against the woman. They turned her into an absolute ridiculous creature. And I think if you if you look at a fashion show and ask yourself, well, is that the new woman, the queen, the the woman which brings memories of paradise onto this earth, and you see those grotesquely dressed up beings, then you'll surely say no, and it's best one leaves those that world alone and strives after real beauty. And yeah. So Edward Burne-Jones, if someone likes symbolist art, that's an exhibition which I like to recommend in the Tate Gallery.
Thank you, Brother Rainer. That's really, for me, that's really clear, made it clear, the difference between fashion and beauty and real beauty. and the superficial, which is also temporary, because you made it clear, something eternal. I mean, that's, you could say you sense it well, everybody's different, so some people may sense it very clearly, others maybe less clearly. So, but when you've identified it, how you've said it there, it just straight away you can hear that. So thank you for that. Brother Gregory, let's talk about purity. How do we, strive for that purity? Is it? I mean, we've already said all these things are spiritual and they're not intellectual. Is there?
Whenever purity is mentioned, purity is more of a spiritual concept than a physical one. The equivalent of purity, one may say, is loyalty. So whatever one does in loyalty may be deemed pure, because that which is pure must be loyal to the laws through which they themselves have incarnated, or they themselves have come into existence in creation. In following the line, or in following the law of love and of the will, they were able, in loyalty, to come into existence. So the word purity, the equivalent, must be used when these things need to be explained. So loyalty is more of an earthly representation of purity.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask both Brother Gregory and Brother Rainer, is there anything they would like to read from the Grail message on this topic for tonight? Or any quote they might like to share with us and the listeners to reflect on the topic for tonight, which is beauty, simplicity, and purity. Brother Gregory, is there anything you have?
For now, no.
Okay. And Brother Rainer, anything you want to share? Brother Rainer, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Okay. I think it looks like you're gonna find something there.
Yeah. I just had to go somewhere.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to remind the listeners while you're looking for that. Dear listeners, this is the Blessed Radio. It's a spiritual discussion program. And the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. And the topic we're discussing tonight is beauty, simplicity, and purity. Brother Rainer, have you got something there?
Sorry, yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I was just asking if you had something to share, to read out from the Grail message or anything else.
No, I haven't
Okay.
got anything.
Okay. All
But I
right.
think no, I haven't got anything.
Okay, no problem. Just looking for something that I can ask you now. So,
I think we could. I think if I just recapitulates those notions we had today,
okay.
the simplicity. I think the point I made is simplicity. Although the laws are simple, and you look into nature, for example, you see the millions of different flowers. What those simple laws produce is an incredible infinity of forms. And those forms will also change over time. We know that the flowers and the plants looked a million years quite different from how they look today. And we know in a million years they will look different. Those laws are laws which are alive, and through their simplicity, they create those incredible forms. The same thing is also true with mathematical laws. Once I've really understood it, and again, to find a mathematical law, like something like this, which is then so short and very nicely put down, so precise like a diamond, in its shortness and simplicity, it took a long time to discover that and finally to come to that point where I just could it write down and say, look, this is how it looks. This is the law which describes the attraction of two stars, or the attraction of two charged particles. And we know it's the same law, and they suddenly know the attraction works like this, that it grows weaker and weaker the further they are apart, and we know it grows weaker with the square of the distance. Very simple laws which go through physics and which make physics a beautiful thing. But it took a long time to get to that description, a long and humble searching of the scientists who finally could write those things down. And the same is with the mathematical laws. But to understand it like this, that I can create the shapes of flowers and the colors of flowers, it is a great art. And if I wanted to write a program or something which creates the shape and color of flowers, probably no one has discovered it yet. It is so simplicity is not to be mistaken by easily to attain. Everyone wants to easily attain something and easily reach something, but the truth and beauty and simplicity, that is an incredibly fascinating way and deeply fulfilling way, but it is not easy. It takes all our strength, which we as a human being can muster. I think that is perhaps something one should take away from this radio broadcast. And and the other thing is that beauty is one of the few instruments we have inside of us, the intuition for what is beautiful, which we can measure to evaluate what is around us. And if you have if you develop the sense of beauty, you can very quickly ascertain that fashion, for example, does not live up to what beauty is, and that it is often just the opposite of it. So think of it, beauty as something you can use to find out, to evaluate the things around you. That can be any human being. You see him all the time, you see how he speaks, and with your sense of beauty you can react on it. And if it is off-putting, be off put, allow it. Don't let your intellect say, oh, you have to to act in a certain way, or you could be wrong. That intuition is the wiser part in you, and it's the most valuable part in us, and we must work more intuitively. So I've brought it now nearly
Yes.
to 9 o'clock
Yes.
with that little summary,
Yes.
and I'll pass it back to you. Perhaps you want to say something, or
Yes.
Brother Greg.
Okay, I'm going
No,
to
thanks.
ask Brother Greg. Yes, please. Anything you'd like to say?
Nothing much that we wish everybody well.
Thank you for that. Dear listeners, thank you for listening to us tonight. Hope you enjoyed the show. I haven't actually got a topic yet for next week's show. I'm working on that one, but we will surely have something. Just to remind you, our aim, as always, is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Prushin. And I really encourage you, as do my colleagues, for you to pick it up, examine it. What we say is our understanding here on the show, and really the only real way to find out what it is actually reading and examining it by yourself. So I encourage you to get a copy for you. It is really something comprehensive. That's what our aim is, to let you see that with the examples and things that we try to talk about. It can answer so many questions in our lives. So, and it really, as well as the topic for tonight is, you will see beauty, you will see simplicity, and you will see purity. That's what these are, eternal values, and you will find them in the Grail message, and that's what we are striving for in our hearts. That's what we want. So please go and search that book, The Grail Message, and hopefully it can help you. Dear listeners, thank you for being with us again. Brother Rani, did you want to say anything further to the
Yes,
listeners?
quite easily. Striving for beauty, just do it.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Good night, everyone. I hope Brother Siom's on his way. At the moment, he's not here yet. But yes, keep staying with us, and hopefully Brother Siom will be here very soon. All the best, everyone. God bless. Have a great week. See you next week. Take care.
Bye bye.